This is Miss Lizzie, and I want to welcome you to the Queen Lizzie Podcast. Together, we will go through the history of Rosewood, Florida, and watch as the once prosperous town rises out of the bloodshed, fire, and ash to reveal the people, the memory, and the legacy of Rosewood. Watch every Thursday on Facebook and YouTube, or listen to our story on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Good afternoon and welcome to Queen Lizzie Podcast, brought to you by the Real Rosewood Foundation, established in 2003, Archer, Florida. Good afternoon. I have with me today, my guest is a dear friend that I have known for a number of years. She is a retired teacher and lives here in Gainesville. Her name is Dale Evans Williams. And I'm going to let her give a brief history of who she is and what we're going to talk about today. Dale, welcome.
Well, thank you. Well, a brief history of myself is that, as it pertains to Rosewood, is that the first time I heard about Rosewood, Lizzie was living in Gainesville, and I saw all these items up her stairs, antiques, and etc. And I started inquiring and asking her questions. I even took it upon myself to go up her stairs, which she didn't give me permission, to find out what was this all about. And from that point on, I really got very curious, and I started working with her. We didn't call it a real Rosewood at the time. We called it
I Too Lived Rosewood.
I Too Lived Rosewood at the time.
I had lived it through my mother.
And so with all the information she was giving me, I just got really involved because I like history. So we just kind of took off there, and it's been like, I was trying to think back, maybe about 35 years.
Long
because she was having a small gathering at your house.
Yes.
And I came over, and that's when my curiosity peaked, when I started seeing all these items that you had in your townhouse.
Yes. And following that, Dale, we were members of the same church. And I don't know if you remember, you invited me to speak February 12th, 1992 at your church. Mm-hmm. Okay. At our church when I was living in Gainesville.
Yes.
That was during Black History Month. And Dale chaired the program. And it went off quite well because you know what? There are so many people at that church had never heard of Rosewood.
Did not know.
So we opened up history to them.
To many people, even the visitors that came that Sunday.
Exactly.
Well. Yes.
Exactly. And we have been moving forward, moving and shaking, as I say, for the last 30 years. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, we got off to like a slow start, but, you were determined. We were determined, your husband, mm-hmm. you, me, and I think Diane Williams.
Yes, my mom.
And we got on board, and it just took a while, but you kept pressing, and that was the most important thing. You kept pressing forward because it was very important for that history to get out.
Exactly.
And only you knew how important it was because I've said once before, if you didn't have your aunt and your uncle a part of that little small community, it would just been another little southern town.
Exactly.
And nobody would be writing on it. No one would be talking about it. But because of what happened there, mm-hmm. is what exploded everything. And that's why it is what it is now.
Exactly. And my mother was living, and when my aunt, as you said, and uncle, the school teacher, and he was a cross-tie cutter. And because my aunt, after being attacked, told my mother her story, Mom told it to me because she was gang raped, and she was absolutely too embarrassed to tell her parents, especially her father, mm-hmm. that she had been raped by men from the KKK. So she came home from Rosewood on the Freedom Train, as I call it, January 4, 1923. Went to her bedroom because she's an Archer native. Yes. Mm-hmm. And my mom bedroom was there. So she went straight to my mom's bedroom, fell across the bed. And my mom said she cried and cried and cried and told her everything that happened to her. So painful. And my mom, I guess it attached itself to my mother. So mom told me the story and she said, you must keep this history alive. And like you said, Dale, had it not been for them, the couple, my aunt and uncle and my mother, we would not be hearing the real story of Rosewood.
That is absolutely the truth.
You jogged my memory.
Yeah, but you know what? When you were telling me that your mother was the one that was interested in keeping this history alive, that to me, in a way, that was like still working to free your aunt's spirit from all that the injustice and what she experienced. So it's a lot of things go into this. It's just not that incident happened there, but it's all the other things that came after.
Exactly.
You know, her coming back home, the embarrassment.
Yes.
You know, and of course your mother must have been devastated.
She was.
When she told her all of that.
She was. And she did not hesitate to tell her 4 children in 1943. And I was 5 and my brothers were 7, 9. My sister was 11. And I have said this to people on more than one occasion. I keep repeating it because it's the truth. She said, y'all sit down on the settee and Mama's going to tell you a story about Mahulda and the Rosewood Massacre. Rosewood Massacre at age 5. I had no idea what the word massacre meant. And when she used the term Rosewood at age 5, what came to my mind? Roses in the woods. But she continued to twirl her fingers and tell the story. I knew something drastic, something horrific had happened there because of her voice. It sent the message that something bad had happened to my favorite aunt, who was my homeschool teacher at age 5. I knew something had happened.
Well, when you started talking about the history to me, I found it overwhelming. And I just have to continue to admire your mom for having the strength, the courage to want to tell a story to her children, because most of our people during that time, that kind of stuff they did not talk about.
Exactly.
You know, children weren't supposed to know it, but that she was able to tell you all. And then one of the 4, and that was you, took it upon yourself that you wanted to carry the story on because you may have been the chosen one. I don't know, because your mother continued to tell you. And then it could be because you were the youngest one still at home as time went along. So the story was meant to be told for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know if I was, because I was the youngest, but like you said, I feel ordained. The spirit, I was ordained by God to tell this story. Although it's what we say about history is the burden of proof. It has been a burden. But for some reason, that story, that same night, attached itself to me and became my mom and story and my story. My brothers both went to sleep, and I just looked at them. How can you go to sleep on my mother? Here I am trying so hard to keep my little eyes open and stay alert because I wanted to hear more. And eventually I went to sleep. It was cold sitting in front of a fireplace and I was tired. So I drifted off to sleep. But before I did, I looked at my sister, 11 years of age. She was in another world. In other words, she didn't want to hear anything about Rosewood. Then it became my duty to tell the Rosewood story. And when I got up the next morning, my mother was cooking breakfast at 4 a.m. because Dad always made sure we had breakfast, and he would always make a fire in the stove. Dale, you know what a stove is?
Yes, I do.
Wood fire in the stove. And my mother would actually bake biscuits for breakfast, bacon, eggs. And Dale, you grew up, you know, and your parents, if you didn't because you were younger than I am, they grew up with the same
Mm-hmm.
experiences. And you can talk about that. Like you talked to me about your Aunt Mamie.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love Aunt Mamie.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to tell us some of Aunt Mamie's history, her story? Our stories all parallel.
Well, that is true too. My aunt, she was a special person. She lived to be a little over 100 years old. And she reared my mom and her 3 siblings. And one thing for sure is that they taught them a lot of things about how you traverse in life. And they did a good job because, they understood the habit of working,
Yes.
making a living,
Yes.
how you should care for your family. And of course, the stove that you talked about, she had a stove. I don't know how they did it, but you put wood into the stove and they could bake biscuits in there and even cakes because there was no oven per se. I guess that was the oven.
Yes.
And so I remember those kind of things when you start talking about the breakfast thing. That's one thing that was a tradition in most Black families. They wanted to always make sure you got a good breakfast first thing. In the morning. You're going to get some bacon, some eggs, the grits, the biscuits. And if there had to be syrup and all that, that was in there too. But they always made sure that you had a solid breakfast before leaving out.
Exactly. Exactly. And the next day after the story of Rosewood, I went to school. I didn't remember a thing the teacher said to me or taught me that particular day because my mind was on what my mom had told me, the Rosewood story. And I was thinking that the story happened last night. Okay. It was 20 years ago. It was in 1943. The story happened in 1923. But I could not relate to time. And I knew that day was a waste of time for me as far as learning. And what I didn't say that morning, the next morning, I wanted to talk to my mom right then about Rosewood. But Dale, you know for a fact, our elders talk with their eyes. And I read in my mom's eyes, it's not the right time to talk about it. So one day, my mother was a taxi driver too, because she would always, in our community, there were 18 families and we were the only one with transportation. So my mom became the little taxi driver for taking the community people or our neighbors to the store. They paid her a quarter for the trip, but that was a lot of money, a quarter. So on this particular day, when she had dropped off her people, the people that she was taking to town, I said to her, Mama, tell me that story again. That was our first time together.
It's interesting that you were talking about, if I had to, it's interesting that you were talking about the taxi driver because my aunt did that.
Okay.
She transported people to Campville.
Really?
And those who were working on the railroad.
Yes.
And she was like a taxi. She took them over there, came back, but she was always hiring herself out. She wasn't like most people. She was not obligated to someone other than her saying, I'm going to cook dinner for you, or I'm going to cook lunch for you.
Well, they knew how to provide. They were providers and they thought outside of the box.
Yes.
And that's where we get, this is a tradition, as you said, and this is why we are continue to live by their examples. And they set very strong, powerful examples. As leaders, they were our leaders.
It did.
I am Black History.
I am Rosewood Black History.
I am Florida and America's Black History.
And you are too.
January 1st, 1923, the KKK insurrectionists attacked Rosewood, killing 5, burning it down.
Because a white woman lied and cried, a Black man assaulted me. Rosewood redevelopment is on its way.
Want to help? Visit rosewoodflorida.com.
Welcome back to segment 2 of Queen Lizzie's podcast. And this time I'm going to share with you something that happened this weekend down in FIU, Florida International University, with the Rosewood Foundation, the real Rosewood Foundation. We were invited there to speak on Rosewood, the same as I am speaking now. And 3 or 4 months ago, FIU got in touch with me because they wanted to travel to Archer, and catalog my Rosewood artifacts, because they had in mind they wanted to help promote Rosewood truthfully. So they came to Archer, and as I said, they visited my home, interviewed and recorded me, and cataloged, took pictures of artifacts they wanted to use. So this past weekend, in fact, it wasn't a weekend, it was this past Wednesday, they made sure they sent the message out to the world that this is an authentic exhibit of Rosewood artifacts. I emphasize the word authentic because my mother's message to me has always been research, authenticate, tell the truth. So this is a true version of Rosewood artifacts. I was so honored. I was thrilled. They did an excellent job, and that exhibit will be at the Patricia and Philip Frost Museum for 3 months. And when it leaves there, keeping the history moving forward, it will relocate to Winter Park at the Hannibal Museum of Arts. And after it leaves there, and I'm giving you advance notification, it will reside at the Cade Museum on Main Street in Gainesville in September. So mark your calendars so that you will know and remember this great information. I think it's great, and I'm being selfish, but it is historic anyway, because I like telling people it's history, and history is who we are. I don't own Rosewood, but I love telling the story for the next generation. Our kids need to know their history. And speaking of our kids need to know their history, I have done a children's book wherein you will see that we do have pictures in this book of Black or African American children, or colored, because I do use the word colored in my Rosewood song that my mother wrote in 1995. But anyway, I just wanted to give you an upbeat of what we are doing. Please order this book. It should be in every child's hand. Every child. I didn't say Black child. Every child's hand. And it should be in the governor's hand too. And I do plan to send a copy to him, because he needs to know who we are and what we stand for and how hard we have worked to help build this great country. And we cannot allow our history to be banned. Black history is America's history.
Yes, it is.
And what you say, Dale?
It is. And, a lot of time I think about what they're trying to do, it won't work. Because I always think about once you're out of the box.
Yes.
We were trying to get out all the time. And then when they signed into law, desegregation, then the box no longer exists. There is no place to put us back into. And there is no way he can erase the history or anyone else in this country, because it's out there now.
It is.
And people of color, everyone, are interested in history. Not only our history, but all history. Why deny anyone of knowing any history that's going to be beneficial for everyone? Exactly. This is not about a hate thing. And I don't think African Americans ever really felt that way.
No.
It's not about, you just want justice and what is right. So I think that would be a plus for our governor. I think it'll be a plus for every child to have that book in their hands. And I think it's a plus anytime we can learn about each other. Exactly. That is a beautiful thing.
It is. That's who we are.
Yes, that's who we are. outside there are a few people on either side, but the majority of the people, when you meet them and everything, they really do want to get along. They really do want to talk to you, and not necessarily whatever is going on at the time. Whether you're at a game, whether you're at a movie, whether you're at a restaurant, people will talk. So it's not like people go around acting like they're so adamant about don't want to have anything to do with Black people. And this Rosewood, the one thing I really love about it from the beginning is that the whole thing is about, getting along, getting people to understand what happened. There is no malice or hatred or anything in anything that has been presented.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do want to make sure that they understand it is, this is Black history, but we want everybody to know. And that's what drew me to it. Drew me to you is that it wasn't about hate. It wasn't about dislike. It was about education, getting educated about what happened in Rosewood.
And closing the racial divide.
Yes.
That's my goal. That's our goal, because children are children. And what he needs to know, the governors before him, I knew Governor Lawton Charles, who signed the Rosewood Bill May 4, 1994. I was there. My mother was there in Tallahassee, and there was a group of young children, integrated choir, that sang their little hearts out. They didn't care about who was liking or disliking it. They enjoyed performing and afterward eating. And also Governor Jeb Bush, he needs to know that Governor Jeb Bush supported Rosewood, came to the erecting of the historical marker. I had the opportunity to introduce him. He signed the historical marker, worked faithfully and brought several hundred people there. Dale, you were present.
Yeah, I was. I was very impressed.
Yes.
I didn't know whether you could get him to come to Rosewood.
Yes.
But he did.
He did, and I believe he enjoyed it. He didn't have a choice.
He seemed very genuine about what he was saying.
Talking to the survivors that were there.
And so many of them that have gone on, they had that opportunity to talk with him and him to talk with them. And it was just a level thing where everyone was, at that time, seemed like to be on the same page.
Exactly.
And it was all about everything you have talked about over the years.
Yes.
So,
and you took a picture sitting with the family.
I did.
Dale said, "I'm going to get me a seat in your picture."
I did.
You did.
So that will go down in history.
Yes, it will. That goes to show you, Dale, that you have been hanging with me for a long time. And you support everything I have ever done, right or wrong. You would always tell me, if you thought, tell me what I needed to improve on. So we've been there.
Yes.
You've
done a lot of great things. All the books that you've written.
Yes.
A couple of T-shirts in there. I mean, and when I went to your house, when the group came in from the university?
PBS.
Oh, PBS. And I didn't know that you had written all these other books about different counties. I knew about Alachua, but then, did you?
No, I didn't write them. I collected them.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but I put them in my history files.
Okay, because they had the pictures on the front, like the one for Alachua County.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I was very impressed with that anyway.
Okay.
Because even if someone took the initiative to do that, that means there are other people who are just continue to buy into what is going on. They know it's genuine.
Exactly. And you were interviewed at this, when was it? A couple of weeks ago.
About a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
And you were interviewed. You did an excellent job.
Well, thank you.
Speaking your truth.
Yeah, I was speaking my truth.
Speaking
That's
truth
for sure.
to power.
Yes. It was really good, and they were very good interviewers as well.
Exactly, and my 10-year-old nephew was interviewed, and he did an excellent job. Quiet voice, however, but when the interviewer, Rashad Wooden, the interviewer, asked him, "Do you know about Rosewood?" And he said, "Yes." He said, "My grandparents used to live here." Blew my mind until I reflected on his last name, Monroe. So his name is Leandra Monroe, 10 years old, and did an excellent. And the guy asked him, okay, tell me about your grandparents that lived in Rosewood. And I don't remember, but he told him what he remembered about Rosewood, and he had gone to the marker.
Mm-hmm.
And when the interview was over, he said, his mom said, Auntie, are you selling that book? Auntie, are you selling that book? And I said, of course. How much? And I gave the price. He went out to the car, got his money, paid for his book. Okay? And if it sounds like I am promoting this book, I am. And I want you all to purchase it. Every child needs a copy of it. Okay? And Dale, as you were saying, what were you saying?
I was going to say something about the book.
Okay.
I was going to say, I guess it's still legal that he could take it to school and share with his classmates, because this bill that they passed was it House Bill 7? No, I can't remember now. I was hoping that he would be able to share it with his classmates.
Of course. He has my permission to share. And if he is reported, the teacher should not be responsible.
No.
He is, that's his.
I think there's a little hang up with that bill that he tried, but I think there's certain things. I think, I think in some kind of way, legally, the amendments come into play that he can't really enforce this yet. So I think it still might be hanging in some of the courts. I'm not sure, but I was just wondering, when he purchased the book, would he be able to take it to school? Because he was returning to school. He was there for the interview,
Exactly.
but yet he was going back to school, and he's in an enrichment class. And I thought, okay, so maybe he will talk about it immediately when he goes back to school, and maybe the teacher will not feel that, I'm not going to get in trouble about this.
Exactly.
Yeah, so.
Well, I have a picture of the retiring superintendent in this book. And there she is right there. She was the superintendent at a couple of 3 years ago. But anyway, she is very special to me because when I was teaching fifth grade at Littlewood Elementary School, she was in my class. There, and we worked in pods or quads, and there were 4 teachers, 3 whites, 1 black. I was the only black teacher, and I didn't have a homeroom mother. And it was near Christmas, and homeroom mothers would come in and prepare the Christmas dinner or lunch for students. I didn't have anybody. I guess because I was not white, no one was interested. So this student came up to me and said to me, Mrs. Robinson, would you like for my mother to be a homeroom parent? I said, of course. She went home, asked her mom. Her mom brought her to school the next day. Her name was Mrs. Godfrey. And Karen introduced her to me, and she offered to be the homeroom parent for this particular Christmas, which really, really pleased me. I felt a part of then. And I don't have a problem telling her name, Karen Godfrey Clark, a retired superintendent. And I know that she is going to support this book, I believe. Hi, Karen. But anyway, it goes on to show you that we cannot allow hate to divide us. Even when I was in college, 1960, I sat at the lunch counter. Oh my God, the worst experience of my life. It was not a pleasant experience, but that's why I know we need to keep working together to close the racial divide and get that history out there. Because, as I said, we are history.
Yes, I totally agree with everything you say. I can't even add any to it because I just don't. And I'm a few years younger, and I think about some of the things that you experienced. I did to some degree, but not like you did, not like of course, not like your parents did.
Mm-hmm.
And you see things, they are turning the curve, but it always seems like when things are turning the curve, they want to stir it up and make it out of
Exactly.
something ugly. But I'm one of those who believe that which is going to be is going to be, and you can't stop it, and it will continue on. Just like Rosewood, when we're all gone, I just believe in my heart, because I saw the display that the university did down south.
Mhm.
What you're saying, how beautiful it is, awesome.
It is.
Very professionally done, a grant written, and it looks like every penny that they spent in it.
Yes.
It went they just did a marvelous job. So
They did.
I just think that this is special to me, and I think it's special to a lot of other people. And every time when people say, "Oh, you know about Rosewood? Oh, you connect with Rosewood," and when they know that you are, it just to me, that in its own right
Mm-hmm.
is like a piece going out.
It is.
And you can't stop peace. You can stop a lot of things, but I don't think you can stop peace and the goodwill of what persons are trying to do, especially when you're talking about human
History.
being and history. You just can't. That's my belief. If it's right, which it is,
I agree.
you have validated, you have proved, we've gone up and down the road to collect and to get. So this is factual stuff. It's not like somebody just passed you something, but you
No.
also investigated it.
Exactly.
And a lot of people are trying to feed off because they know it is authentic and it has
Exactly.
been proven, everything. So that's a
Exactly.
good thing. I just love it.
Exactly. And I would like to close with this. Couple of 3 days ago, I got a call or a text message from the United States Attorney General's office. And on tomorrow, I am speaking for them at one of the branches, Ocala. And I was told this morning that it's going to be Zoomed. That's not the right word, but yes. And the young man, the United States Attorney General, is going to do comments after. So when I come back, I will be happy to share with you all maybe some pictures or their goals, because they must have a goal in mind. And I believe, don't know, they have probably seen this exhibit down in Miami and said, we need to do something. And I hope they are going to do something to help us make Rosewood a national historical landmark.
Yes.